This episode is brought to you by Indeed. Stop waiting around for the perfect candidate. Instead, use Indeed sponsored jobs to find the right people with the right skills fast. It's a simple way to make sure your listing is the first candidates see. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs have 4 times more applicants than non-sponsored jobs. So go build your dream team today with Indeed. Get a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
Kraft Mac and Cheese is better than 90s hip-hop. We'll remind you of your childhood without making you feel incredibly old. Kraft Mac and Cheese. Best thing ever.
Hey there, Duke fans. Welcome to DBR Bites, episode number 150. We are here on Monday, March 9th. Donald here, Jason here. We're here to discuss the ACC awards, the end of regular season awards that are given out every single year. And Jason, I don't know if you were doing any clean today, but we got a broom, a damn near sweep with the ACC awards.
Yeah, we did. It was, it's kind of funny. We usually, when we talk about these awards and the such, we're usually bitterly complaining. The Duke players have been overlooked. They have been disrespected and all the other kinds of stuff. Talking about Coach K hadn't won an ACC Coach of the Year award for the final 22 years of his career, 23, whatever it was. I mean, absurd stuff about how much Duke is disrespected by the media. Donald, we can't really do that this year. They kind of gave us everything. I do want to point out, though, you're going to go over the list, but I do want to point out they gave Duke all the awards because we deserved all the awards this year.
Yes.
We were truly dominant in the conference. We had individual players who were doing things that like people have never seen before. We'll talk about it when we get to these awards. There's some like you're having to go back. Oh, let's go back 15 years. Let's go back in history, 50 years, all kinds of other stuff like that to find players doing the things some of these Duke guys did this year. So it's media finally went, oh, we'll be nice to Duke. It's that the Duke guys, including the coach, Jon Scheyer, were so overwhelmingly good this year that everyone just kind of went, well, I mean, there is no other choice. In some cases.
And they learned from last year.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like they learned in the fact that last year the argument was we can't give them everything. And this year the answer was, yes, we can.
Yes, we can.
We're going to start with the main awards winners because there are a lot of them. We're going to start with the fact that Cameron Boozer is your ACC Player of the Year and Rookie of the Year. Of course, he basically won 90% of all of the weekly awards, including this past week, for his performances. And now he is the Player of the Year and the Rookie of the Year. He was also first team All-ACC. He was All-Rookie. And we'll talk about maybe the snub of him being fourth for Defensive Player of the Year, but did not make All Defense. So that's Cam Boozer, Jason. Your Player of the Year, your Rookie of the Year, your All Everything.
Yeah. So first of all, I understand that Cam wasn't unanimous. I believe that the ACC coaches have a vote in this, in addition to members of the media. And the coaches are not allowed to vote for their own player.
That's
which
correct.
is one reason that so that's one vote that Cam didn't get, because Jon Scheyer was not allowed to vote for him. The Cam, and we're talking about Player of the Year. Someone else also voted for someone other than Cameron Boozer for Player of the Year. So there were a total of 2 votes that he didn't get for Player of the Year. Again, one of them was Jon Scheyer because he's not allowed to vote for his own player. The other one was someone else. I don't know who that other person was. They clearly lost their mind. I'm betting that Jon Scheyer voted for Tista Ritter of Virginia, and then there's also a vote for Ibuka Okori of Stanford. Okori had a wonderful year, hat tip to him. A kid who came out of nowhere, not a highly touted high school recruit to have a heck of a season, but the notion that you would vote him ACC Player of the Year is like, I mean, I guess it was a beat reporter or someone who covered that. It's crazy. It's bonkers. But the thing I wanted to mention was somehow Cam got fewer votes for Rookie of the Year than he did for Player of the Year. That means there are people out there. There are at least 2 voters out there who didn't vote, who voted for Cam for Player of the Year, but didn't think he was the Rookie of the Year. What kind of bonkers, insane logic does it take to do that? He's the best player in the conference, but he wasn't the best freshman? What? How do you even, where does that come from?
Look, there are many reasons why people decide to be stupid with their votes. Sometimes, like you mentioned, Jon Scheyer cannot vote for him. So I wonder if Jon Scheyer, in this case, for Rookie of the Year, voted for Caleb Wilson. He only got 1 vote.
That's what I would think. I would think
and I think that was probably, we can guess that's probably what it was. And Abuku Okori, who won several Rookie of the Weeks and Player of the Weeks, got 3 votes to Cameron's 82. So again, it might be some people saying, let's give a flyer to some guy who we know is not going to win. But you get, as we've seen, if you get too many of those, votes can shift. So, but there's Cameron Boozer. You're again, everything. I did want to note the other ones, and we can kind of go back after I list all the other guys. Maliq Brown, this is probably one, Jason, that I'm most proud of. Maliq Brown, Defensive Player of the Year. He is also your 6th Man of the Year and was on the All Defense team. Dame Sarr also All Defense and was 2nd in the Defensive Player of the Year vote. And then also finally, the one that we've been waiting for, Jon Scheyer, in his 4th season as Duke head coach, is your ACC Coach of the Year, an overwhelming one. The guy that was closest, Jay Lucas, who turned around Miami in under a year. He's very deserving of some votes, but we thought that our Coach of the Year is the Coach of the Year, and that's Jon Scheyer.
So let me talk about Maliq Brown again, on the all-defensive team and wins 6th Man of the Year and Defensive Player of the Year. So the same way, Donald, a couple weeks ago, you started to hear all this stuff bubbling up about, Jon Scheyer for Coach of the Year. Jon Scheyer, like people started to really get on the train. Over the past week or so, I think people have been really getting on the Maliq Brown train. And I think that's a lot of what carried him here was that, after sort of being under the radar, because he is a guy who comes off the bench, because he splits time, because he isn't someone who puts up like huge offensive kind of counting stats and the such, I suspect that that's sort of why people weren't paying as much attention. And then as you sort of get into the whole, it's time to vote, that's when people sort of start really looking at it and go, wait a second, this is a no-brainer. I want to just talk about Maliq Brown for 1 second, because there've been some stuff that's come out in the past couple of days from people who are stat heads, efficiency experts, metrics and the such, that will highlight to you how incredible Maliq Brown is on defense. We see it with the eyes, but there are numbers to back it up as well. So Maliq Brown currently, Ken Pomeroy is able to track steals rate. One of the many things we look at is how many steals does a guy get relative to how many minutes is on the floor, how many possessions, that kind of stuff. Maliq Brown's steals rate is the highest that Ken Pom has ever tracked for a player 6'9" or taller. There's some, there's some little guards. There's some guys who steal specialists out there. But Ken Pomeroy's been tracking this since 2005, 21 years. Actually, it's 20 years. It was 2005-06. So this is his 20th year of tracking steals rate. And again, Maliq Brown has the highest number ever recorded for a player 6'9" or taller. Let's also look at his defensive box plus minus, Maliq Brown. That's a stat that a lot of people pay attention to. It's a fairly advanced statistic involving both your stats and how your team does when you're on the floor versus off the floor. Defensive box plus minus is something that the efficiency gurus really love. Maliq currently has a 9.1 defensive box plus minus. It's the highest of any college player in the last 15 years. It's just absolutely ridiculous. People are starting to say that he's the most impactful defensive player we've ever seen at the college level. I want you to think about that. And just to give you perspective on what a 9.1 defensive box plus minus means, an all-star in the NBA, an NBA all-star would be a guy who has a defensive box plus minus around a 5. Like the best NBA players are getting about a 5 defensive box plus minus. Maliq Brown is at a 9. He's like having one Maliq Brown is like having 2 all NBA defenders on your team. It's kind of crazy. And I've started to hear some rumblings from some people, NBA, adjacent kind of folks who are like, I know he's not on draft boards and stuff, but someone needs to sort of give this guy a roster spot and see if he could do at the NBA level what he does at the college level. Because if he can, he's super, super, super valuable. Like, you don't just look at his rebounding numbers. Don't just look at his scoring numbers, because those aren't what Maliq Brown does to impact the game. What Maliq Brown does to impact the game is steals, it's blocks, and it's all those deflections. He just causes chaos. And again, people are just starting to notice the outrageous numbers that Maliq puts up. So I'm not at all surprised that the ACC writers paid attention to that and went, oh yeah, Defensive Player of the Year, Maliq Brown.
In a way, I kind of am surprised. And the reason why I am is some of the things that we talked about in the last couple of weeks. The fact that we thought that he was the Defensive Player of the Year, but because he comes off the bench, he wasn't going to get the votes as much as some of the starters that were up for this award. And I think it's telling that when you look at this Defensive Player of the Year, Jason, Dame Sarr was second. Maliq Brown had 25 votes. He was first. Dame Sarr was second with 15. Think about who Jon Scheyer has been highlighting for his defense the last couple of weeks. Besides those two. No.
Oh.
Besides those two, it's Cameron Boozer.
Right.
And at the beginning of the year, we talked about how his defense wasn't as far along as his offense. The fact that he's come around to the point where Cameron Boozer finished fourth in the Defensive Player of the Year votes is something special. And the fact that we had those three guys on the floor, sometimes at the same time, was incredible. You even have Pat Gongba all the way down there. I believe he was 8th in Defensive Player of the Year voting. Now, when it comes to Dame Sarr, the going rate that I was hearing over the last week was, if Dame Sarr doesn't win Defensive Player of the Year for the ACC, it's because Maliq Brown did. And if Maliq Brown didn't win it, it was because Dame Sarr did. So to have those guys finish second, in between them, Ugonna and Yesu from Virginia, who we just saw, and we know how he can shot block, to have those two finish first, it signifies that finally, again, at least in our eyes, we're Duke fans, but in our eyes and in the eyes of the writers, they finally said, no, what we're seeing isn't just the Duke machine. It's not just like some propaganda thing. These guys can ball. These guys can really play D. And so I'm really excited that not only Maliq is able to come off the bench and win. The combination of 6th Man of the Year and Defensive Player of the Year rarely happens. So for him to be able to do that is really something special. And for Dame to be right there next to him in all of these basic defensive categories on, the first team all defense and it being second in the voting, I think is just simply remarkable, and good on them and good on the writers for recognizing the talent that those two guys have.
I mean, at the beginning of the year, we all probably thought Caleb Foster was going to be the best perimeter defender on this Duke team. Lo and behold, I mean, and it's not that he's not good.
It's not that he wasn't, right?
Yeah, it's crazy. Hey, I got one more Maliq thing for you. On the last podcast, on the Carolina podcast, you and I were discussing the fact that like Ken Pomeroy and ESPN and CBS, all the folks who posted box scores from the Duke Carolina game, had Maliq with 9 rebounds, but the official Duke box score had him with 10. And we were like, what's going on there? I got an answer. I spoke to the official scorer for Duke, who's been a guest of ours on the podcast in the past. And he texts me every now and then when something's going on that he wants to let us know. He listens to the podcast because he said, let me explain to you what happened. Real live during the game, there was a flurry at about the 8:45 mark of the second half, tips and rebounds bouncing around different guys and stuff like that. And the official scorer and his spotter both thought that Isaiah Evans had gotten a rebound. If you look at like the box score on Ken Pomeroy's website or ESPN, Isaiah Evans ends the game with 2 rebounds and Maliq Brown has 9. Well, these guys, the official scorers, they really do a thorough job of making sure. When that play happened and they gave the rebound to Isaiah, they put a little mark, they're making sure they want to go back and double check it. So the game ends. Everybody's got Isaiah with 2, Maliq with 9. They went back. They looked at the tape. They studied it. They went, no, actually, Maliq was the one who got that rebound, not Isaiah. So if you look now on the official Duke box score, Isaiah, 1 rebound, Maliq with 10. So it is officially, and the official stats that Duke will provide to the NCAA and the such will show Maliq Brown with 10 rebounds, with a double-double from this game. There wasn't any, they didn't fudge anything. It's not like they're not cooking the books. After every game, these guys go back and make sure that everything they saw was correct. And so that is why there was this disconnect, so to speak. But the real number is Maliq Brown, 10 rebounds, double-double in his senior game. And I've had some people looking around, messaging me and messaging other folks and saying, like, Maliq Brown may have had one of the best, if not the best, senior days we've seen at Duke since like Grayson Allen had one where he filled up the stat sheet. I want to say it was Jon Scheyer or something like that. Even JJ, I forget. You have to go way back to have had a Dookie have a senior day like this. Although maybe it's Justin Robinson. So I don't know.
Still J-Rob. J-Rob is in our hearts. Jason, real quick before we go to break, the fact that Maliq Brown has won ACC Defensive Player of the Year, do we think that elevates his chances of winning National Defensive Player of the Year? Again, take into effect some of the other things that we always say with starters probably getting the nod over guys off the bench.
Yeah, I think it absolutely does. I mean, look, the people who vote on those awards probably aren't done voting yet. And they have this is now a big headline that you put next to Maliq's name. And it may serve, if you're someone who is out there who is thinking about, am I a Adama Sarr person or am I a Maliq Brown person? This now, it's sort of like, look, hey, get into my wheelhouse here. It's sort of like the Hollywood Awards, the Oscars and things like that. And like, the Producers Guild picked One Battle. If I was considering One Battle versus something else, I might go, now I know what some of these guilds have done, and it sort of focuses my vote a little bit more. I think you may see some of that. I'll go ahead and say on the record, I don't think Maliq is going to win National Defensive Player of the Year. There are just a couple other guys out there who are a little bit higher profile, who are starters, who I suspect will probably take it. But I mean, he certainly could be in the running. He's probably one of the 3 or 4 guys who are very much in the running. It'll be interesting to see, but we won't get those until probably next week or after the tournament has even started.
I mean, Jason, you mentioned all the movies. This is a great plug for the Oscars coming up this weekend. So I'm glad you worked that in. All right, let's take a quick break. On the other side, we're going to talk about Coach, and we're going to talk about some of the other guys who made some of these All-ACC lists. So stick around to talk about all of that.
Disney Plus wants to know, are you ready? For Marvel Studios' Thunderbolts, The New Avengers, now streaming on Disney Plus.
Let's do this.
One of the best Marvel movies of all time is now streaming on Disney Plus.
Hey, you weren't listening to me.
I said Thunderbolts, The New Avengers is now streaming on Disney Plus.
Meet the New Avengers.
That's a cool name.
Marvel Studios' Thunderbolts, The New Avengers, rated PG-13, now streaming on, you guessed it, Disney Plus.
All right, we are back. We continue with all of the ACC end-of-season awards. Of course, Duke cleaning up in almost every single category. Before we get to Jon Scheyer, I did want to note some of the other players that made lists. First of all, Isaiah Evans, 3rd team All-ACC, and he was 3rd in the Most Improved Player award. That is the only award that did not go to a Blue Devil this year. Juke Harris from Wake Forest, the runaway winner and a deserving one at that. He really had a great season. Pat Gongba, honorable mention for All-ACC. He was 8th in the Defensive Player of the Year voting and was 11th in the Most Improved Player award. And then finally, Caden Boozer got 1 vote. He was 7th in the Sixth Man of the Year category. So again, I'm just really glad that all of these guys got recognized. And on a team like Duke, Jason, it's sometimes very difficult to be able to recognize everybody. So the fact that we got all of these awards is kind of a team thing that shows that the team was the best, as you mentioned at the beginning, that the writers recognized that the team was so dominant that we had to basically flood these awards with this team. And the fact that even all the way down to Caden Boozer, that's what, 6 guys, 7 guys, or 6 guys, I should say, that got votes or got like listed on different awards. So I'm really, really appreciative of the fact that these guys all were able to share in this, and all, again, Caden Boozer, Pat Gongba, Slim, all of them getting put on lists for the ACC for all of their production this year.
And we should not forget that the conference is a heck of a lot bigger than it used to be. Making these teams is not as easy as it once was. There was God, I want to say it was Mark Price. Well, Tyler Hansbrough made first team All-ACC 4 years in a row. Mark Price, I think, was like second team All-ACC 1 year and then first team 3 years in a row. There are lots of guys like that, throughout ACC history. I want to say Johnny Dawkins may have been, Johnny Dawkins was like 2 or 3 years. Whatever. I'm getting, old. It's a lot harder today. The conference has kept on getting bigger and both in terms of number of teams and in terms of geography. And geography is one of the things, it's a little bit harder, maybe for some of those sports writers on the West Coast or SMU and the such, to pay attention to everything that's happening with the guys who are on the East Coast. It's very, very impressive that these Duke guys did as well as they did. I wanted to especially shout out Isaiah Evans, who, like you said, came in third for most improved player. And then also was on that list for what was
All-ACC.
All-ACC. Yeah. Third, that
team.
was it. I was trying to get out. Third. I was like, I knew I'd say it was that way. Third team All-ACC. Yeah. We all had high expectations for Isaiah this year. Everyone said, we got to, Duke needs a second scorer and all that other kind of stuff. But man, the season he had, especially the back half of the year in the ACC, really, really was a great season. And for him to get this kind of recognition again in a huge conference, 18 different teams, only 15 guys making those first, second, and third team all conference teams. For him to be up there, I think is a really nice tip of the cap to what's been a guy who, by the way, has improved so much over the course of the year. Remember when he was just a 3-point shooter? Yeah, that is really, really not the case anymore. I used to come on and highlight, oh, look, he took 3 2-point field goals in this game, that kind of thing. Now you don't even bother to, it's like not even part of our notes anymore, how much Isaiah takes the ball to the goal or how many slam dunks he has and things like that, because he does it so often. So yeah, that was the other one that I really wanted to give a special shout out to.
I mean, Slim, the fact that he was improving, I mean, his shot was there, right? And even when it was he had that little slump, he came out of it in a big way. And we still have that note, right? We're undefeated when he hits at least three pointers in a game. Yep. But he improved, as you mentioned, with going to the hoop, finishing at the rim. He also improved on defense. And there's times where Slim was the guy locking down some of the top players in the ACC and helping as part of this team defense suffocate the perimeter. So I'm really happy that he got most improved votes as well as third team All-ACC. I think is very much deserving for him.
Yeah, by the way, one other thing I wanted to mention, it's easy, I think, as a Duke fan to be like, yeah, we thought these guys were going to, we thought Cameron Boozer was going to be good. We thought Cooper Flagg was going to be good last year. What's the big deal here? Remember who won? Do you remember who won ACC preseason player of the year, Donald? I
do not.
It was Darian Williams of NC State.
Right. That's right. The transfer. Yep.
Yes, exactly. Considered probably one of the 5 best transfers out there in the transfer portal class this past year. And not that Darian Williams had a bad season, but Darian Williams ends up ACC all honorable mention. Patrick Gungba had more points for all ACC than Darian Williams did. It's really something to have expectations and then live up to those expectations. It's not easy to do that, and these guys, did an incredible job. This season has surpassed expectations, I think, no question about it.
Absolutely. I mean, again, Pat with his play, and you remember at the beginning of the season, we were talking. There was, some of the metrics that said like, "Hey, he's going to be one of the best centers in all of college basketball," and he had the difficult task of trying to star in his role next to the star in Cameron Boozer. And he was able to do that. There's so many times, in fact, the pairing between the two was really what led us for a lot of the season. So I'm really happy to see him on some of these lists. Honorable mention, DPOY, the 8th place, and then the most improved as well. And despite having some injuries that kept him out for a couple of games this year, he was still able to make those lists. So good on him. Let's move on to the final category, Coach of the Year. And Jason, we had a whole thing this year about how he should be National Coach of the Year. I'm sure that's still in play. But first, as you know, if you're going to win, Album of the Year, you should probably win your category. And so Jon Scheyer wins the ACC. As I mentioned, he was what was his vote total? I'm looking at it right now.
51.
51.
51.
Sorry.
Yeah.
51 votes. Jay Lucas with 19, Ryan Odom with 9, Luke Laux with 4, Brad Brownell with 2, and Mark Madsen of Cal with 1. But man, finally for us. I mean, Jason, I was not in school. I was not a Duke student the last time a Duke coach won Coach of the Year. Can you believe that? Like, I've been out of school for 20 years.
Crazy.
I had not started school. I had not applied to Duke when Coach K last won a Coach of the Year. And so for Jon Scheyer to get it in his 4th season is nothing short of incredible. It's well-deserved. The fact that, again, it's something I think people are starting to finally recognize that it is something to have the expectations to finish first and still finish first the way you do. Running away with it outright, just one loss, and that loss coming on a last-second three-pointer, literally 0.6 seconds away from being undefeated in the ACC during the regular season. It's just incredible that he's finally getting that recognition and, again, setting himself up for the big one to hopefully get National Coach of the Year in a couple weeks' time. But your thoughts on Jon Scheyer, the year that he had, and just the improvement that he showed in year 4 as a head coach?
I mean, we're kind of at a loss for words to describe the way this transition from Coach K to Jon Scheyer has succeeded. It's unprecedented. I'm trying to, Tom Izzo taking over. I mean, there are a few of them out there. Tom Izzo taking over for Judd Heathcote at Michigan State. That's one that went really well. There have been a couple others, but usually you just don't see something like this where an absolute legend steps down and elevates an assistant. Not, again, this is not hiring a new guy from someplace else. Not like Kansas when Roy Williams left and Bill Self came in. That's a completely different kind of circumstance than what we've seen here at Duke. To me, the thing that's impressive about Jon Scheyer is the fact that he is so successful and so good at so many different aspects of being a head coach. Like, it'd be real easy for him to just be the best recruiter around, and he'd be super successful if he was the best recruiter around. And I think there's no question, if you asked anyone in college basketball, who's the best recruiter around, Jon Scheyer. There's no, I mean, like, Duke gets everyone they want. It's incredibly rare that we miss on someone that we really want, that we really need. I can't even think of the last one that we really needed that we missed on. It'd be very easy to just go, that Jon Scheyer, once he gets those guys, those super talented guys on campus, he puts them in positions where they can succeed. That's not easy to do. There are plenty of highly touted transfers, highly touted freshmen, guys from high school who don't live up to expectations. And at Duke, almost always, they seem to, if not live up to, exceed expectations. But in addition to all that, his schemes, the way Duke is playing, the way they adjusted, we talked about the way they adjusted the defense around Christmas time, the beginning of the year, the type of defense that they're playing, the way they play offense using their big men. I'm not good enough at understanding basketball to be able to fully explain it, but people who really, really know this stuff marvel at the stuff that Duke runs. So, best recruiter, great motivator, gets everybody to buy in, team concept, running ridiculously great stuff on defense, running ridiculously great stuff on offense. He won Coach of the Year. Shouldn't surprise any of us. I think the only surprise is that usually Duke guys get overlooked, but there are there are plenty of people out there, by the way, who will tell you that what Jon Scheyer's doing from a pure coaching standpoint is better than the stuff that Coach K was doing, the final decade or so that Coach K was coaching Duke. I'm not going to get into that debate. I don't want to, but there are basketball experts out there who will tell you that this Duke team is better coached than Coach K's Duke teams, at least, final half decade or so that K was there.
I mean, look, as the old,
can we delete that part? I shouldn't have said that.
As the old saying goes, you're only as good as the company you keep. And this award, I'm sure Jon will accept on behalf of his coaching staff. And Jason, just think, even from last year to this year, the coaches that left, right? Jay Lucas leaves before the tournament. He goes to Miami. It must have been good, right? He was second in the coach of the year.
Exactly. Yeah.
J. Rob, he leaves to go to the Lakers. Will Avery departs the staff. You get Evan Bradson. You get Tyler Thornton to come in as an assistant coach. You promote Jace McCain to that player development role that J. Rob had before he left. And all of those guys come in and step in like they haven't missed a beat. And this staff as well, again, the leaps and bounds I've seen from all of the coaches, not just Scheyer, and how they approach the staff and how they approach each other, how they approach the players, how they recruit, roster construction, all of that has become a science now. And the NIL part is thrown on top of that to be a chaos ball. And for them to have mastered that in a way, and while everything continues to swirl and change around them, I'm sorry, I should even mention, Rachel Baker, right? Like the people who were, like, how do you forget that? And then just the stewardess of all these people to put this machine together, but also to get it going. I watched Formula One, Jason. These cars are worth hundreds of millions of dollars, but it doesn't mean anything if you can't push the button and the car doesn't go vroom, vroom, right? They have so many people who get to the point where this driver puts it out on the track and goes fast. That's what Jon Scheyer has been the captain of. And so for him to get this award at such a young age, he's not even 40 yet, and he's got a coach of the year under his belt, hopefully soon he will have more trophies, more team trophies that he can have in his office. But man, this is just a great, great accomplishment for him, for the entire coaching staff, for basically the entire staff of Duke men's basketball. And I'm just so happy for them and for Coach Scheyer to lay claim to this. It's finally something that, again, I have not seen since before I was a student. I'm glad I'm seeing this now.
Hey, last comment I've got, and this is a non-Duke comment. Looks like the ACC is in pretty good hands, at least, in some of these programs. Jay Lucas, we said, from Miami, comes in second in Coach of the Year in his first year. Ryan Odom from Virginia comes in third in Coach of the Year in his first year on the job. Luke Laux at Florida State comes in fourth in ACC Coach of the Year in his first year at Florida State. And by the way, when we preview, we're going to come out here and preview the ACC tournament tomorrow. And when we do that, folks, we're going to be talking a lot about that Florida State team that I think Duke is fairly likely to play Florida State. And they are really, really good. They are way better than the Florida State team that gave us a scare earlier in the year. But my overall point in this is you got three new coaches fresh on the job here in the ACC who came in second, third, and fourth in ACC Coach of the Year race. And it's not because they were new on the job. It's because all three of those guys did a hell of a job with their teams. All three of those teams exceeded expectations, got better as the year went along. All the hallmarks of a good coach were on display from what those teams did this year. We've talked about how much the ACC is better than it was last year. I think they're pretty decent signs. The ACC may be even better next year. And by the way, we've already had two coaching changes in the ACC. BC and Georgia Tech. Coaches on the way out. Let's see what they bring in. Maybe those new guys will be on the ACC Coach of the Year list next year.
Jason, I mean, the ACC, new coaches, an elevated stature with all these teams getting better. And I think, hopefully the bottom of the conference will continue to elevate itself as well, because that's what really helps so many teams be on the cusp of being in the NCAA tournament and having this opportunity with the ACC tournament coming up. Before we get out of here, though, we did need to mention another ACC tournament,
Oh my gosh, you're right. Thank you.
The women, the ACC champions, Duke women, for the second year in a row, they claim the ACC tournament in a thrilling game. A overtime win, a comeback win over Louisville. They also had a very hard-fought win in the semis against Notre Dame. They beat Clemson in the quarters. Jason, and I just want to just shout out a couple of their award winners too, because of course, Coach of the Year, I think for the first time in a very long time, I think since the last time this happened, Kara Lawson is your Coach of the Year for the women's side. You have Toby Fournier and Tina Meir as ACC first team, All-ACC second team, Ashlyn Jackson, All-ACC defensive team, Toby Fournier and Tina Meir. Ariana Robertson, all freshman team. And I'm just incredibly excited for this team and how they just, turned it on after starting off quite shakily, right? They had a huge schedule. They really went for it. And sure, they fell flat in a couple of those games. But once they hit ACC season, it was lights out. They only lost twice. They get to the ACC tournament. Again, some hard-fought victories to get back to the championship and win it, and over some really good teams in Notre Dame and Louisville. But, man, I'm so happy for them. I think they might be a 2 seed if you're talking about the NCAA tournament with the run that they had.
They're folks. They're right there. 2, maybe 2. It's like 50-50 between the 2 and the 3. It'll be very close. If the committee did what the committee used to do and like look at, how are you playing down the stretch? Because we talked about it. Duke November was a nightmare, nightmare for the Duke women. The way they're playing today bears no resemblance to the team that they were in 2025. And I don't mean last season. I mean earlier this season. If you were looking at that, you would have this team for sure as a number 2 seed because they have been really outstanding the past couple months.
And to do that with several key players, including one key freshman out due to
my God, the injuries.
The
injuries have been they've only got 7 players. The injuries for this team are just unbelievable. And the thing that I really admired, just really quickly, because I did watch a pretty fair bit of the ACC tournament, the grit and determination that they show. How can you not root for a team that just fights through every piece of adversity that could possibly be out there and fights for every rebound? The reason they beat Louisville was offensive rebounding. Period. End of story. Like that was the story of the game. Duke would take a shot, wouldn't work out for them. They're like, no problem. We're sending just people who hunger for the ball to the basket, and those folks are going to grab it. She's 5'9". She grabbed 12 rebounds in this game. Are you kidding me? Like, what are we even talking about? It was an incredible effort by the Blue Devils to get that win.
And last note from me is I think also there was a point in that Louisville game where they were down. They were down early pretty big, right? They were down like 12, 13 points, I think. Yeah. They came back and then they were down late, like 5 or 6 points. So you could just see the switch just elevate from level 5 to level 10 of want to. Like, hey, do you want this or not? And I feel like Coach Kara was in the huddle like, if you want to win the ACC title, you better get out there and fight for it because this is the time to turn it on and fight for it. And fight they did. So really, really happy for them. Again, back-to-back ACC tournament champions, a regular season championship in the ACC, and hopefully, for us at least, hopefully a 2 seed in the NCAA tournament with a chance to get one step further. Last year they got to the Elite Eight and had a puncher's chance of getting to the Final Four. They lost to a great South Carolina team. Let's hope they can get one step further and punch their ticket to the Final Four this year. Hopefully the men will be able to do the same. But as they say, there's still a lot of basketball left to be played, and we, Jason, will be here for all of it. We're going to be back in your feeds very, very soon because we have an ACC tournament to prepare for. We're going to kind of do a whole overview of the tournament before most of the games get started. But until then, this will conclude this episode of the DBR Bites. He's Jason. I'm Donald. That sound you hear is the Duke Band, but there's also some trophies clinking in the background.
It's tax season, and at LifeLock, we know you're tired of numbers. But here's a big one you need to hear. Billions. That's the amount of money in refunds the IRS has flagged for possible identity fraud. Now here's another big number. 100 million. That's how many data points LifeLock monitors every second. If your identity is stolen, we'll fix it guaranteed. One last big number. Save up to 40% your first year. Visit LifeLock.com/podcast for the threats you can't control. Terms apply.